welcome to Trigger Alert. My name is Andrea. If you haven't seen this face before, I welcome you. Thank you for stopping by. If you've seen this face before, welcome back. As you can see, per the channel's name, we talk about uncomfortable conversations. If you are thin-skinned, please, this is not the place for you. If you are going to come just to be triggered and pull apart every single sentence, 1 second, I got something for you. I want you to take your amazing triggering comments, ideas, perceptions, put them in here, tie it up. Bye-bye. For the rest of you guys who wants to listen to other people's ideas, perceptions, their experience, stick around. Please subscribe. Hit that button. You definitely want to hit this bell because this topic comes in 3 clips. This is clip number 2. Let's get into it. So, clip number 2 is going to focus on the African American side. Again, before I start, little disclaimer, I do not speak for everyone in this group. When I reference or make examples and I talk about other cultures, I do not represent those cultures. What I'm going to say or the things I'm going to be saying are based on my in-person experience, my online experience, my conversations with people from work, my loved one, family, friends. I am in so many chat groups, be a Black chat groups, African, professional, so on and so forth. Now, having said all of that, let's get into it. When I talk to most African Americans that I meet, I feel like 2 things also comes up, and I'm only going to focus on these 2 things. The reason is there are other smaller issues that come up, but if I'm going to sit here and list every single hurt, it will be for the rest of my life, and that's a no. So, in my experience, having these conversations, 2 things that comes up. Some African Americans will say that, they don't really navigate towards Africans because we sold them. And I'm just going to stop right here and say, I understand your hurt to the group of you that feels like that. I understand where you're coming from. But I also want you to understand that there are 2 sides to every story. If somebody was to break into your house today and you had a confrontation with that person's side of the story or what they think happened is going to be different than what you think happened. And sometimes based on the image that person is trying to uphold, based on the image you are trying to uphold, the stories can kind of navigate in different directions. I want you to understand that there were African countries that already had slaves that did sell those slaves. But there are so many African countries that did not have slaves. And we did not sell slaves. Now, your education comes from this side of the world, right? My education comes from the other side of the world. So, in my experience going to high school and learning about history, I was not taught that my people sold slaves. What I was taught was that my people were kidnapped. They were stolen. But yes, there were people that were sold, but it is a small percentage. The people that were sold were mostly rivalry groups. Sorry, got stuck there. They were usually rivalry groups. So for example, if I had a rivalry with my neighbor concerning a land, right? I could sell my neighbor and then I don't have to deal with that conflict. People who have multiple wives, traditionally, the first son gets to inherit and gets to be the head of the family. So if you have multiple wives and those other wives had sons and wanted their child to be the head of the family, there was a possibility that they could do something like that and sell your kids or sell the other woman's kid. So people did sell people, but it wasn't on a huge scale. That's what I was taught in school. But I do understand where you come from, because I do see, like, I cannot even imagine what I would do or feel like if I had the African American background, if that makes sense. So when people say that, I usually, because I'm a person, I usually try to tell them the difference, the North, South, East, West African countries and stuff like that, and tell them, like, we did not. So I'm not from a generation who actually sold slaves. But sometimes, I just walk away. But I want to say I understand your hurt. The second thing that usually comes up in these conversations is you will hear, it goes both ways. You will hear either an African person say, African Americans are envious of us because we are more praised, we are more liked, we are hardworking, or a bunch of African Americans will say, Africans feel like they're better than us, and we or our ancestors paved the way for them to be here, for life to be a little easier for them coming to this country. And I want to say, this is a really hard one, honestly, if I'm to be honest. This is a really hard one because I understand both sides, right? And from the African American perspective, I know how it feels if I was standing somewhere and somebody comes up and say to an African American woman, oh, I like you better. I like African American women better because they're prettier. And I'm there and I'm African. Or to say they're prettier than African, right? To say, I like African American women better because they're prettier than African women. That will hurt. And especially it will hurt to another level if that African American woman takes that as a compliment, even though it's an insult to me. And somebody had to point this out to me, right? It was an African American woman. She pointed this out to me, that a compliment should be a compliment. Your compliment should be your compliment. It should not be shared. There is no reason for someone not to just say, I love Africans because they're hardworking. It has been said about other cultures. That's okay. It is not bad to say, I like Africans because they're hardworking or whatever the reason is. But when you do a comparison in a sentence, that's where the problem comes from. So she had to point that to me. And I had to take a step back and be like, yeah, kind of makes sense. But on the other side, I want you guys to understand and this is the reason I want to talk about these things. When there are conflicts that don't get resolved, conflicts that don't get talked about, there is an underlying hurt. And when people are hurt, sometimes they take these things as compliments because it makes them feel good about what has been done to them. So me, for example, I did or used to accept those kind of people coming up to me and saying, oh, I like Africans better because you guys are hardworking, or I like you guys better over African Americans because you guys have a better attitude. I used to take that as a compliment, because imagine if I just had a conversation or an experience with an African American person where they mocked me. Sometimes the mocking of the accent makes us, at least some of us, feel like you're trying to come off like you're better because you don't have an accent. So when you make me feel like that and I have those unresolved feelings, I walk down 2 blocks and some other culture person comes to me and tell me they think I'm better than you. Can you see how I will take that as a compliment rather than just calling that person out, right? I hope you guys understand that. Like, when there are unresolved hurt, it is easy for people to allow other people to trample over you because it satisfies something inside of you. Not that it's right, but it does. So I wanted to point this particular point out because I want to tell my Africans brothers and sisters, when people when people come up to you and say these things like, oh, you're hardworking than an African American person, just remember the ability or to work hard and pick up all these extra hours is based on motivation, right? Your motivation is different from someone else's motivation, right? A lot of times when we come here, most Africans, we have people depending on us. We are paying tuitions. We are paying, we're supporting people back home. We are building houses back home. We're trying to build a business back home, right? African Americans, this is their home. They're not building houses anywhere. They don't have those extra trend of people waiting back home for them to send money. And so their motivation to pick up extra hours might not be there, not because they're lazy, but just because they don't have the need that you have. So I want you to kind of think about that. You know, I can't really just go into details a lot of times because these clips are supposed to be short. But I wanted to say that just so that in the back of your mind, when you hear people make these compliments, understand that they're building you a pedestal based on someone else's pain, based on someone else's back. When they don't have to, they can just give you a compliment, period. They can just say, I like you, you're hardworking. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're hardworking, you should be recognized for it, right? But they should not compare you to another person or to another group to put that group down when your motivation is different from their motivation. Because I have heard Africans say, you know, African American things that, you know, we're going to come and take over, you know, we're hardworking. I'm like, your motivation is different, sweetheart. That's why you're hardworking. That motivation is different. I have people professionally who I've worked with who will work 5-6 days a week. I would not work more than 3 days without crying. Okay? I will not. If I pick up that one extra day, I am bitching about it the whole day. Like, I'm literally at work complaining about being at work. My motivation is different. It's not because I'm lazy. When I have stuff to do, when I need that money for some other reason, I work 5-6 days in a row and won't even blink. But then there are times like I will not even like 2 hours. You call me and be like, Andrea, can you stay extra 2 hours? Someone's running late. I'm like, no. Because my motivation is not there. I don't need that money. I don't need a reason to be there. So I want you guys to just remember that. I am, however, going to stop here. If you are an African American person and you have a different experience, please leave a comment below. If you are an African person and you think I'm coming from a different side and you want to share another side, please leave a comment below. But I am going to do another thing. If you are an African American person and you feel like Africans have made you or said it to you that they think they are better than you, please leave a #1. But if you are an African person and you feel like African Americans have made you feel like they are better than you, leave a #2. And I want you guys to put a little comment behind it. So be like, oh, #1. I've had an African person tell me that to my face. #2, I've had an African American person. You know, just so we have an idea of where this is going, if that makes sense, right? So this is where I'm going to stop. There's going to be another clip. It's going to talk about my experiences. If you are interested and you stay this whole time, please hit that subscribe button below. Hit the bell so you are updated when I upload the next video. Okay? So I want you guys to have a good day. Live your best extra life. Remember, no matter what you're going through, take a deep breath, stop, and push forward. I will see you guys in the next clip. Bye.